The first time CEO Elena Carter asked Daniel Brooks to dinner, he thought she was simply being kind. The second time, he knew exactly what she meant, and he still said no. But 6 months later, when Daniel walked into the company's most important board meeting with no idea what was waiting for him, Elena stood in front of 12 senior executives, looked directly into his eyes, and asked him a question that left the entire room silent. Daniel had spent years believing that love was something he could no longer afford. He was about to discover that Elena had never been trying to take anything from his life. She wanted to become part of it. Daniel was 37 and worked as an operations manager at Carter Industries, a large manufacturing company in Chicago. To most people in the office, Daniel was quiet, dependable, and almost impossible to upset. But his calm personality had been built through years of responsibility. 5 years earlier, Daniel's wife, Rachel, had died after a sudden illness. Since then, Daniel had been raising their 2 children alone. His daughter, Lily, was 10. His son, Noah, was 7. Every weekday started at 5:30 in the morning. Daniel packed lunches, made breakfast, searched for missing homework, reminded Noah to brush his teeth twice, and tried to convince Lily that a messy ponytail was perfectly acceptable for school. One Monday morning, Noah walked into the kitchen wearing 2 different socks. Daniel stared at his feet. "Noah, yes, Dad, why are your socks different?" Noah looked down. "One is clean, and the other," Noah smiled, "also clean." Daniel laughed, despite himself. "Good enough. Get your backpack." Those little moments kept him going. But life was not easy. Daniel's salary covered rent, groceries, school expenses, and the medical bills left from Rachel's final months. But there was rarely much money left afterward. He had been offered promotions before, but most required longer hours or regular travel. Daniel always turned them down. His children had already lost one parent. He refused to let them lose the other to an office schedule. That decision was one reason Elena Carter noticed him. Elena was 40 years old and had become CEO of Carter Industries after her father retired. She was intelligent, disciplined, and known for remembering details that most executives ignored. She knew the names of the security guards. She sometimes ate lunch in the company cafeteria instead of the executive dining room. And when something went wrong, she rarely blamed someone before understanding the problem. Daniel first truly spoke with her during a warehouse crisis. A major shipment. It had been delayed because of an inventory mistake. Senior managers were arguing over who was responsible. Daniel quietly walked to the whiteboard. "We can spend 3 hours finding someone to blame," he said, "or 20 minutes fixing the schedule." The room went quiet. Elena looked at him. "What do you suggest?" Daniel explained a simple plan. 2 delivery routes could be combined. A nearby supplier could provide missing packaging. Warehouse workers could volunteer for a short second shift. The company avoided a major penalty. Later that evening, Elena found Daniel near the elevator. "So it was impressive." Daniel shrugged. "It was mostly common. It's sense you'd be surprised how rare that who becomes in executive meetings." Daniel smiled. Then his phone rang. "That was Lily." "Dad, Noah spilled orange juice on my science project." Daniel closed his eyes. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. Elena heard enough to understand. "Everything okay?" "Normal family disaster." She smiled. "Good luck." That was the beginning. Over the next several months, Elena and Daniel worked together more often. She learned that Daniel never scheduled meetings after 5 o'clock unless absolutely necessary. She learned he kept cereal bars in his desk because he often forgot breakfast. She learned that every Wednesday he left early to take Lily to piano lessons. Daniel learned things about Elena to behind her confidence. She was lonely. Most people around her either wanted her approval, her influence, or her money. Daniel spoke to her like she was simply another person. One rainy Thursday evening, after a difficult negotiation, Elena and Daniel were the last 2 people leaving the office. They stood beneath the building entrance. While rain covered the street, Elena looked at him. "Would you like to have dinner with me?" Daniel smiled. "We just spent 4 hours talking about shipping contracts. I think we've suffered enough." Elena laughed. "I meant dinner that has nothing to do with work." Daniel stopped smiling. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he said gently, "Elena, you're my boss, I know, and I have 2 kids waiting at home. I know that too." Daniel looked toward the rain. "You're a wonderful person, but my life is complicated. I didn't ask for a simple life." Daniel shook his head. "I'm sorry." Elena nodded. She looked disappointed, but respected his answer. "Okay." Daniel drove home convinced he had done the responsible thing. But Lily noticed something immediately. "You look weird." Daniel put his keys on the counter. "Thank you." "No, like, thinking weird and I'm fine." Lily studied him with the suspicious intelligence of a 10-year-old. "Is this about a woman?" Daniel nearly dropped his coffee mug. Lily smiled. "I knew it. There is no woman, Dad. When adults say there is no woman, there is definitely a woman." Daniel changed the subject. But that night, lying in bed, he thought about Elena longer than he wanted to admit. He liked her. That was exactly why he needed distance. Daniel I had built his life around protecting Lily and Noah. He could not risk bringing someone into their lives who might eventually leave. A few weeks later, Alina asked again. This time, they were walking back from a charity event. I know what you said before, she told him, and I respect it. Daniel looked at her, but I still think you're saying no because you're afraid. Daniel's face tightened. Alina, I'm not criticizing you. You don't understand. Then help me understand. Daniel stopped walking. Children already know what it feels like when someone disappears. Alina's expression softened. Daniel continued. Not bringing someone into their lives unless I'm certain. She wants the whole package. School mornings, homework, bad moods, dentist appointments, soccer games, everything. Alina took a breath. I know you're a father. No, you know I have children. That's different. His words were sharper than he intended. Alina looked hurt. Daniel immediately regretted it. I'm sorry. No, she said quietly. Maybe you're right. Daniel watched her walk toward her car. For the second time he had rejected her, and this time, it hurt both of them. What Daniel didn't know was that their relationship was about to become even more complicated because the next morning, the company board announced that Carter Industries needed major restructuring, and Daniel's department was at the center of it. For the next 2 months, Daniel barely had time to think about Alina. Carter Industries had lost one of its biggest contracts, and the board demanded immediate cost reductions. Consultants arrived, departments were reviewed. Rumors spread through the office, people worried about losing their jobs. Daniel's team had 38 employees. Some had worked there for more than 20 years. One afternoon, Daniel received a confidential report recommending that 12 positions in his department be eliminated. He stared at the list. He knew every name. Mark had just bought his first house. Jennifer was supporting her mother. Carlos had a newborn baby. Daniel, we walked directly to Elena's office. I can't sign this. Elena looked exhausted. It's a recommendation. Daniel then rejected. The board wants a 10% reduction, cut over time, delay equipment upgrades, freeze management bonuses. Elena leaned back. I suggested those things and they want permanent savings. Daniel dropped the report on her desk. These aren't numbers, I know. Do you? Elena's eyes hardened. Be careful. Daniel immediately realized how unfair the question was. He lowered his voice. I'm sorry. Elena stood. Do you think I enjoy this? No. I have 3,000 employees depending on this company surviving. If I make the wrong decision, it won't be 12 people losing jobs. Daniel said nothing. Elena walked to the window. The board is considering selling one division. If that happens, hundreds of jobs could disappear. Daniel's anger faded for the first time. He saw how much pressure Elena was carrying. What can I do? She turned. Help me find another option. So Daniel did. For 3 weeks, he worked late after the children went to bed. He studied production costs, transportation contracts, staffing patterns, and warehouse losses. He made calls after dinner while Noah built Lego towers beside him. He reviewed spreadsheets while Lily practiced piano. One night, Lily walked into the kitchen at almost midnight. Daniel was still sitting with his laptop open. Dad. He looked up. What are you doing awake? I heard you. Daniel rubbed his eyes. Go back to bed, sweetheart. Lily sat beside him. You've been working a lot. I know. Are we in trouble? Daniel closed the laptop. No. Then why are you always worried? Daniel hesitated. Some people at work might lose their jobs. I'm trying to stop that. Lily thought for a moment. Can you? I don't know. She leaned against his shoulder. You always tell me doing your best matters even if something doesn't work. Daniel smiled tiredly. When did you start listening to my advice? Sometimes. He kissed her forehead. Back to bed. The next morning, Daniel received unexpected help. Alina had arranged access to financial data normally restricted to executives. Together, they built a restructuring plan that could save most of the threatened jobs. It required executive bonuses to be reduced. Several expensive offices would be closed. Management, travel budgets would be cut. And Daniel suggested consolidating 3 regional warehouses. When they presented the plan to the board, several directors resisted. One older board member named Richard Hale frowned. You're asking senior leadership to make sacrifices to protect entry-level positions. Daniel answered before Alina could. Yes. Richard looked at him. And why exactly should management accept that? Because leadership should feel the pain before asking employees to carry all of it. The room went silent. Alina looked at Daniel. Then she smiled slightly. I agree. The proposal passed by a narrow vote. Only 3 jobs were ultimately eliminated, and all 3 employees received severance packages and job placement assistance. Experience changed something between Daniel and Alina. Not romantically. At least not yet. Daniel finally saw that Elena's concern for employees was real, and Alina realized Daniel was not rejecting her because he looked down on her or lacked feelings. He was scared. Then came the turning point. One Friday afternoon, Daniel received a call from Lily's school. She had collapsed during gym class. Daniel's heart nearly stopped. He rushed from the office without even closing his computer at the emergency room. Doctors discovered Lily had severe dehydration caused by a stomach infection she had been hiding because she didn't want Daniel to miss work. When Daniel entered her hospital room, Lily was connected to an IV. She looked small beneath the white blanket. Daniel sat beside her immediately. "Why didn't you tell me you were sick?" Lily looked guilty. "You were busy." "I'm never too busy for you. You were saving people's jobs." Daniel felt tears burning behind his eyes. "Sweetheart, listen to me. Nothing at work is more important than you and Noah," Lily whispered. "I didn't want to make things harder." Daniel squeezed her hand. "You are never making things harder." A nurse entered. "Mr. Brooks." "Yes, there's someone asking for you outside." Daniel stepped into the hallway. Alina was standing there holding Noah's backpack. Daniel stared at her. "What are you doing here?" "Your neighbor called the office." Noah was still at after-school care. Daniel suddenly remembered. His face went pale. "Oh my God, I picked him up." "You picked up my son. He's downstairs with my assistant getting something to eat." Daniel covered his face. "I forgot him." "You didn't forget him. Your daughter was rushed to the hospital. I should have remembered." Alina stepped closer. "Daniel." He shook his head. "I'm supposed to handle this." "You don't have to handle everything alone." Those words hit him harder than he expected. For 5 years, people had praised Daniel for being strong. No one had asked whether he was tired of being strong. Alina sat beside him. For a long moment, Daniel said nothing. Then quietly, he admitted, "Sometimes I'm terrified of what failing them." Alina looked toward Lily's room. "You haven't. You don't know that. I know your daughter hid being sick because she was worried about other people. Kids learn that kind of compassion somewhere." Daniel's eyes filled. "And Noah talks about you like you're a superhero." Daniel laughed painfully. "He also thinks dinosaurs might still be hiding in Canada. That doesn't make the superhero part wrong." For the first time, Daniel allowed himself to lean against someone emotionally. Alina stayed until Lily was discharged the next morning. She brought breakfast. She helped Noah with a puzzle. She listened while Lily explained her science project, and she never once acted like she was doing Daniel a favor. Over the following weeks, Alina slowly became part of their lives, not as Daniel's girlfriend. Not officially. She simply showed up. Sometimes she brought pizza once she attended Lily's school concert because Daniel had mentioned it in passing. Another evening, she helped Noah build a cardboard solar system. Daniel watched her sitting on the living room floor with glue on her expensive blouse while Noah argued that Saturn needed more dramatic rings. Something inside Daniel changed. He had spent so long protecting his children from possible heartbreak that he had forgotten they might also deserve new happiness. But just when Daniel began considering whether he had made a mistake rejecting Alina, he overheard a conversation at work. Two executives were talking outside the conference room. "If Alina marries someone inside the company, the board will lose its mind, especially an employee." Daniel stopped walking. The second executive laughed quietly. "She has enough problems proving she makes objective decisions." Daniel turned around before they saw him. Suddenly, every fear returned. If he started a relationship with Alina, people might question her leadership. They might say he received special treatment. Worse, his children could become part of office gossip. So Daniel made a decision that evening. He asked Alina to meet him in the empty cafeteria. She smiled when she arrived. "That sounds serious." It is. Her smile faded. Daniel struggled to find the words. "Think we should create some distance." Alina stared at him. "Why?" "Because this isn't fair to you. Let me decide what's fair to me. You're the CEO and I work for you, so we create boundaries. People will talk. People already talk." Daniel shook his head. "Children are involved now." Alina's face changed. "Do you think I would hurt them?" "No." "Then what are you afraid of?" Daniel could not answer. Alina's voice became quieter. "You rejected me twice, Daniel. I accepted it. Then you let me into your life. I know. You let me care about Lily and Noah. I know. And now you want to decide for everyone that this has to end." Daniel looked down. "I think it's safer." Alina's eyes filled with tears. "Safer for who?" Daniel had no answer. She nodded slowly. Then she walked away. That night, Lily found Daniel sitting alone in the kitchen. "Did you make Alina sad?" Daniel looked up. "How do you know?" "She texted me to say she couldn't come to my concert next week." Daniel sighed. "I thought it was better." Lily crossed her arms. "For who?" Daniel stared at her. It was almost the exact same question Alina had asked. Lily's voice broke. "Dad, Mom is gone." Daniel froze. "I know, and I miss her every day. But Alina isn't trying to replace her." Daniel's eyes filled. Lily continued. "She just makes you smile." Again, Daniel looked away. Then Lily said the words that finally broke him. "I miss Mom, but I miss the happy version of you." Daniel covered his face. For the first time in years, he cried in front of his daughter, and Lily simply wrapped her arms around him. Daniel barely slept that night. He thought about Rachel. He thought about the promise he had made beside her hospital bed. Take care of them. For years, Daniel had interpreted that promise as protecting Lily and Noah from every possible pain. But maybe protection did not mean closing every door. Maybe taking care of them also meant showing them that life could continue after loss, that people could love again without forgetting the person they had lost. The next morning, Daniel made a decision. He would talk to Alina. No excuses. No hiding behind company policy. No pretending he did not love her. But before he could reach her office, his phone rang. It was Elena's assistant. Daniel, the board needs you upstairs immediately. For what? I don't know. They just asked for you. Daniel's stomach tightened. He assumed the board had learned about their relationship. Maybe someone had complained. Maybe his job was in danger. When he entered the boardroom, every senior director was already seated. Alina stood near the windows. Daniel looked around nervously. Did I miss something? Richard Hale pointed toward an empty chair. Sit down, Daniel. Daniel sat. Richard opened a folder. The board has been reviewing the restructuring results. Daniel waited. Richard looked at him. You saved this company approximately $14 million annually. Daniel blinked. We all worked on the plan. Yes, but much of the operational strategy came from you. Daniel glanced at Alina. She said nothing. Richard continued. The board wants to offer you a new position. Daniel frowned. What position? Vice President of Operations. Daniel stared at him. His first thought was not about salary. It was about Lily and Noah. What are the hours? A few board members laughed. Daniel did not. I'm serious. Elena finally spoke. The position can be structured with limited travel and flexible hours. Daniel looked at her. You did that? No. The board did. Richard smiled. Ms. Carter was actually removed from the compensation discussion because of a potential conflict of interest. Daniel's face warmed. So they knew. Richard continued. We are not blind. Daniel. Several directors smiled. Daniel wanted the floor to open beneath him. Then Alina walked toward the center of the room. I have one more matter. Daniel stood instinctively. Alina. She looked nervous. Daniel had seen her negotiate million-dollar contracts without blinking. He had never seen her look like this. She took a small box from her jacket pocket. Daniel stopped breathing. Someone at the table whispered, No way. Alina looked at Daniel. You rejected me twice. A few people laughed softly. Daniel covered his forehead. We're really doing this here. Yes, Elena. Because you keep making decisions based on what everyone else needs. She stepped closer. You think about your children. Another step, your employees. Another, your company. Her voice shook. But I'm asking you to think about yourself for once. Then, to Daniel's complete shock, Elena lowered herself onto one knee. The entire boardroom became silent. Daniel stared at her. Get up. No. Someone at the table started laughing. Elena opened the small box. Inside was a simple silver ring. Daniel's eyes filled. Immediately, Elena said, Daniel Brooks, I don't want your perfect life. He swallowed hard. I want the real one. Her voice trembled. I want rushed breakfasts. Daniel laughed through tears. I want school concerts. Lily flashed through his mind. I want Noah arguing about dinosaurs. Daniel covered his mouth. I want the difficult days too. The bills, the bad moods, the fear, all of it. Daniel whispered. Alina, I'm not asking you to forget Rachel. I would never ask that. That sentence broke the last wall inside him. Elena continued. I'm asking whether there is room in your family for one more person who loves you. Daniel looked around the room. 12 executives were watching. Some were smiling. One woman was wiping away tears. Daniel looked back at Alina. Then he remembered Lily's words. I miss the happy version of you too. Daniel knelt in front of Alina for one terrible second. Alina looked worried. Daniel smiled. You know, most CEOs usually wait for an answer before terrifying an entire board. The room laughed. Elena's eyes filled with tears. Daniel took her hands. I said no twice because I was afraid. She nodded. I know. I thought protecting my children meant making sure nobody could ever get close enough to hurt them. He paused. But somewhere along the way, I was also keeping good people away. Elena squeezed his hands. Daniel looked into her eyes. So this time, he smiled. Yes. The room erupted in applause. Elena laughed and cried at the same time. Daniel pulled her into his arms. Richard leaned toward another director. Well, that's one way to close a board meeting. 6 months later, Daniel and Alina married in a small ceremony. There were no reporters. No luxury hotel. No huge guest list. Lily carried the flowers. Noah carried the rings and nearly lost them 10 minutes before the ceremony. Daniel kept a framed photograph of Rachel near the front row before the ceremony began. Elena stood beside it quietly. Thank you, she whispered. Daniel heard her. For what? Alina looked at Rachel's picture. For helping make the family I'm lucky enough to join. Daniel could not speak. He simply took Elena's hand. Their marriage did not suddenly make life perfect. Daniel still burned pancakes sometimes. Noah still forgot his homework. Lily became a teenager and discovered the powerful skill of rolling her eyes at adults. Alina still had stressful board meetings. Daniel still worried too much. They argued occasionally about schedules, chores, and where the work emails belonged, at the dinner table. But they built something real. Every Thursday became family night. Phones stayed in a basket near the kitchen. They ate together. Sometimes they played games. Sometimes they watched movies. Sometimes they simply talked. One evening, about a year after the wedding, Noah asked Alina a question. "Are you our second mom?" The room became quiet. Alina looked at Daniel before answering. Then she looked at Noah. "You already have a mom?" Noah nodded. "She's in heaven." "Yes," Alina smiled. "I'm just Alina." Noah thought about it, then he hugged her. "That's okay." Alina closed her eyes and held him tightly. Daniel watched from across the room. For years, he had believed moving forward meant leaving Rachel behind. Now he understood something different. Love did not erase love. The heart was not a room where one person had to leave before another could enter. Sometimes it simply grew.